Good morning. Welcome to Algebra 1 Home Learning Lesson 3. I hope everyone is staying happy and healthy. So far we have factored using the greatest common factor method. We have also factored trinomials when the a term is equal to 1 using factor pairs. Now today's objective is that hopefully we'll be able to factor trinomials when a is not equal to 1 by using both of those methods. First, by using the factoring method, the GCF method, and then second, by using the factor pairs method. Our first activity today is notes, which is in your email. It's either page 2 or 3 of those notes. It's a continuum of the notes that we did last lesson. And then activity number 2 is the individual practice, which is also in your email. Again, do not do yourself a disservice by not doing this individual practice. Again, these are things that you will need to know. We don't know if testing will be eradicated for this school year. We don't know. So these are skills that you need to have and that you will see on standardized testing. Okay, so first things first, you had individual practice for last class or last lesson. This is the answers for that individual practice. I want you to pause your video so that you can go over these answers and compare them to what you had. Hopefully they are very similar. If you have any questions or concerns, you can definitely email me or comment on my YouTube. There were some typos, so if you got a few of them wrong because of the typos, I do apologize. All right. So for today, again, we're talking about factoring trinomials with a GCF. Okay, so sometimes you need to take out a GCF before you find your number pairs. Remember that for this method to work, the a value must equal 1. So first you factor out your GCF, and then in order to factor using the number pairs method, your a value has to equal 1. That is exactly why we factor out the GCF. So for example, we have here 3x squared plus 6x plus 3. Okay. Our a is 3, our b is 6, and our c is 3. We can clearly see that a is not 1, so we can't use our number pairs method yet. So we must use the GCF method first. Okay. We're going to do that using our prime factorization. So the factors of 3 are, the largest prime factor is 3 and 1. Same goes for this one, 3 and 1. And then the prime factorization of 6 is 3 and 2. Okay, again, these are all prime numbers, so I'm done. As you can see, the largest prime number here is 3 for all of them. So that's the greatest common factor. So I'm going to take that 3 out, just like we used to do before. The 3 goes out in the front. And I'm going to divide everything by 3 and ask myself what's left. 3x squared divided by 3. These 3's cancel out. I'm left with x squared. Or you can say 1x squared. 6x divided by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2x because you have an x left. And again, none of these had at least one x in common, so I didn't take out an x. Okay, and then 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now I have 3 times 1x squared plus 2x plus 1. And if you see here, ta-da, I have a trinomial in these parentheses that has an a value that's equal to 1. And that's what you're looking for, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking for taking out a GCF first so that you can have a trinomial in your parentheses that is equal, that has an a value that's equal to 1. Okay. So now that we have this, we can factor our trinomial using our number pairs method. We have to find the factors of C that add to make B. We have a new a C and B here. So our A is 1. This is what we want. Our B is 2, and our C is 1. So now I have to find the factors of 1 that add to make 2. My factors of 1 are 1 and 1. Obviously, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay. So now, this is the difference here. I've factored this trinomial inside of my parentheses. I still have that 3 on the outside. Can't forget that 3 on the outside. But now I can write my trinomial as 2 factors, x plus 1 and x plus 1. Okay. Now you can check this. You can check this. Let's box this out. This is my answer. You can check this by first doing your FOIL method. So x times x is x squared. So you have 3. The 3 is still there. You have x times x is x squared. And then you have x times 1 is 1x. 1 times x is 1x. And then 1 times 1 is 1. Combine your like terms, you get 3 times x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay. Now, if I multiply everything times 3, I get 3x squared plus 6x plus 3, which is exactly what we had at the very beginning. Okay. So what I did here again was I took out the GCF first using the prime factorization method. And then I used my number pairs for the new trinomial, finding the factors of C that add to make B. Let's do another one. I have here negative x squared plus 6x minus 9. Now this one is a special and it's a little tricky because here I don't have a number like 3 or 2 or 5. I have a negative 1 here. I have a negative 1 here. So negative 1, first thing I need to do is take out a GCF. Negative 1, positive 6, and negative 9. Or just, you could say 9, but it's negative 9. So when you have a negative number, you have to take out the negative number. You have to factor out the negative number. So here, negative 1 is a factor of all of these numbers because 1 is also a factor of all of these numbers. The only thing that changed was the sign. So if negative 1 is my factor or my GCF, I have to now, I didn't mean to cross it out, take that out of each of these terms. Okay, you could say it's negative 1 and 1. This would be the prime factorization would be 3 and 2. You can also say this would be you could say negative 3 and 2, which means that there's also a 3 and negative 1. You can think about it like that. Here you can say it's negative 3 and 3, and then also a negative 1 and 3. If you want to do it like that, but it's easy to see that if the a term is negative 1, you just take out the negative 1 because 1 is always a factor of any number. Also, negative 1 is also a factor of any number. So I have negative 1, and then I have divide everything by negative 1. What's left is negative 1x squared divided by negative 1 is just x squared. 6x divided by negative 1 is just negative 6x. And then negative 9 divided by negative 1 is just positive 9. Okay. So this is now my new trinomial with the negative 1 out in front, because that's what I had left after I took out negative 1. So here my A is 1, which is what we want. My B is negative 6, and my C is positive 9. I had to find the factors of C that add to make B. That's my step 2. My factors of 9 that add to make negative 6. Okay, so let's write out my factors of 9. Now remember, since 9 is a positive number, it could either be 2 positives or 2 negatives. So we have 1 and 9, 3 and 3. We can also have negative 1 and negative 9, and negative 3 and negative 3. I know it's a lot of stuff to think about, guys, but if you take it slow and just think about each process, you should be good. Okay, now which one adds up to make negative 6? That would be negative 3 and negative 3. Okay. So now I'm going to write this as my factor pair. So I'm going to write x squared minus 6x plus 9 as factors, remembering that the negative 1 is still outside, right? Because I didn't factor the negative 1. I factored the trinomial. So now I'm going to write that as x minus 3, x minus 3. Okay. And I can now check that to see if the answer is correct, if I get my original trinomial here. So I'm going to start by doing my FOIL method. X times x is x squared. Oh, put that negative 1 out in the front. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Okay. If I combine my like terms, still bring down that negative 1, I get x squared minus 6x plus 9. Distribute that negative 1, you get negative 1x squared plus 6x minus 9, which is the exact thing I had in the beginning. Okay. All right, now it's your turn. I would like for you to pause this video and take a few minutes to take your time and solve these two and factor these two trinomials, 4x squared minus 20x minus 64 and negative 2x plus 16x minus 30. And then when you come back, we'll solve it together. Okay, so now I have 4x squared minus 20x minus 64. My first step is to find my GCF. So I have my A is 4, my B is negative 20, and my C is negative 64. Okay. We're going to use prime factorization. Okay, 4, my largest prime factor of 4 is 2. My largest prime factor of 20 is going to be 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Break down 4 into 2 and 2. Okay, 64, my largest prime factor is going to be what's my largest prime factor for 64? You can use your calculator. That's what I'm doing right now. And I think it's going to be 2, actually. Okay, it's going to be 2. So you break down 64, 2 times 32 is 64. You can break down 32 into you could do 2, and that would be 16. 16 gets broken down into 8, and it keeps on going till you end up with just 2. So 2 would be the largest prime factor for all of these. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. 2 goes on the outside. What's left, 4x squared divided by 2 is 2x squared. Okay. Negative 20x divided by 2 is negative 10x. And then negative 64 divided by 2 is negative 32. Okay. All right, now I have a new trinomial. My new trinomial is 2x squared minus 10x minus 32. My a... Oh, I did that totally wrong. It's going to be 4. 4 and 1. Everything but 4. Now, if you went through all of the work for the first U try, which was 4x squared minus 20x minus 64, you would notice that it does not factor out evenly. And that's okay. Not all trinomials factor out evenly. What you'll learn in the next few weeks is that there's another method called the quadratic equation that works for every quadratic that ever existed. Okay, so they won't all work out using these two methods, these two strategies. Okay, now looking at the second one, negative 2x squared plus 16 minus 30, you'll see that the greatest common factor was negative 2, so we took out negative 2. Put that negative 2 out in the front. You're left with 1x squared minus 8x plus 15. Your new a, b, and c are a equals 1, b equals negative 8, and then c equals negative 15, which means that we have to find the factors of negative 15 that add to make negative 8. Okay, and those, positive 15. So we know that the factors of positive 15 are 1 and 15, 3 and 5, also negative 1 and negative 15, and negative 3 and negative 5. Because remember, 2 positive makes a positive, and 2 negatives make a positive. We find that negative 3 and negative 5 equal, plus negative 5 equals negative 8. So our factors are negative 3 and negative 5. We're going to write that out as factor pairs, but we cannot forget that negative 2. Okay, so it's negative 2 times x minus 3 times x minus 5. And in order to check it, we go ahead and do our FOILs, which gives us x squared minus 3x minus 5x plus 15. Combine your like terms. Negative 3x minus 5x equals 8x. And then distribute that negative 2. Negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 8x is positive 16x. And then negative 2 times 15 is negative 30, which is exactly what we had in the beginning. Okay. All right, now for your individual practice at home, I'm giving you this paper in your emails. You're going to do the exact same thing we just did. Okay. I'm giving you 6 chances to practice. Okay, I also just list the steps up top so that you can remember. Okay, label your A, B, and C. If A is equal to 1, factor out the GCF, then find the factors of C that add to make B. Write the factors in parentheses with X plus or minus the number times X plus or minus the number, and then use your FOIL to check your answer. Right. Again, I'm hoping everyone is staying happy and healthy. I will see you on Wednesday with our next lesson. Bye.